I'm going to be splitting this video up into several parts because I want to do a bit of history before we get into how to pronounce scientific names. I've spoken to lots of people within the hobby, indeed scientists, entomologists, and watched tons of videos and cringed many times when I've heard scientific names butchered completely. This is of no surprise to me because in the 21st century Latin and ancient Greek aren't two languages we tend to use very often. And when people read new words, especially from a different language, they read them by pronouncing letters the way they've been taught from a very early age. A good example of this can be seen or indeed heard every single day. Americans are not taught their ABCs the same way that we are here in the UK, which means they pronounce a lot of words incorrectly, like Iran, Iraq, and click instead of cliché. All of which make my blood boil and the hairs on the palms of my hands stand up. Before we use the current system of genus and species to describe an organism, scientists would use local names and languages. This meant that you could read 10 books about a plant or animal and have 10 different names for the same thing. This also caused problems with communication and progress between scientists of the day, as no one knew what anyone else was talking about. Fairly similar to politics today. Then in 1707 Carl Linnaeus popped out of his mother somewhere in Sweden, and by the age of 10 he spoke Latin better than he did Swedish, a lot like me. Back when rich posh people attended rich posh schools, they learned Latin, and what's more, it didn't matter what country you came from or your native language. This presented an opportunity if someone actually thought about it, and lucky for us, Linnaeus did. At only 28, when we were all, or will be, in the clubs getting bladdered on watered down lager and thrashing about to the latest musical ensemble of the time, Carl was busy writing his first book, The System of Nature, where he used his Latin binomial nomenclature to describe organisms throughout. Let's just say it was a hit, and other naturalists and biologists took it under their wing and started using the same system when describing plants and animals in their own books. This system is still used today, classifying similar animals together into one group, like horses, donkeys and zebras for example, which are all in the same family of Equidae, or equine in English. Taxonomy had been redefined to make some sense, splitting organisms up into a genus and species using Latin and sometimes Greek. This meant that genus could be a group of similar organisms and a separate name used for each species within that group. As the first scientists wrote their findings in either Latin or Greek, this habit was continued and became the international language of science. Working back from the species or subspecies, which is the very last possible way to identify an organism, we can trace everything to the start of time from a sort of dysfunctional family tree like we all have. There are three main branches that come sprouting from the phylogenetic tree of life: bacteria, single-celled organisms, archaea, also single-celled organisms but weirder, and eukarya, organisms whose cells possess a membrane-bound nucleus. Each branch has its own branches that are related to the first. If you take the branch that we sit on, then you will find our relations are such wonders as slime molds and fungi. Let's move to the very end of the branch and pick a random species. I'm going to pick the praying mantis, Rhombodera kirbii, because I have one on my desk thinking about eating my fingers as I type this script. To get back to our own tree trunk, there are a whole lot of branches we have to fall down, and lucky for you, I'm here to explain them all. Good luck. Kirbii in this case is the species that we started with, which is sitting on the branch called Rhombodera. This branch is called the genus, which sprouts from a larger branch that we call the tribe. Working back down the tree some more, we see that the tribe grows out of the subfamily, which emanates from the family branch of Mantidae. Sometimes taxonomists play around with the branches and move them up and down or give them different names just to keep we plebeians on our toes, so don't be surprised if you trace an animal via its taxonomy, and it doesn't have all the branches I mention here. This family branch now sits firmly upon the order, which is classed as Insecta, or insects to you and I. Insects are under the phylum of Arthropoda, which is part of the animal kingdom, which is under Eukaryota. And that gets us back to our main branch, with all the other little branches that have their own organism classed similar to our own animal branch. There are a few more groups in the ranks that are used for certain criteria. Superfamily, family, subfamily, tribe, subtribe, genus, subgenus, species, subspecies, in that order. If that was as clear as mud, then don't worry, no one can remember them all, not even Sir David Attenborough. If you are still awake and you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and a sub, maybe even share it. Next time I'm going to be looking at Latin and Greek and how to pronounce commonly used terms and their meanings. Ta-ta for now.